You learned how to calculate the area of a triangle. You memorized the dates of battles fought hundreds of years ago. But nobody taught you what happens when you don't pay your credit card on time. Nobody explained that the money sitting in your savings account is actually losing value every year. Nobody showed you what compound interest can do for you or against you. That gap is not your fault. But fixing it? That starts right now. Welcome to this summary of What Nobody Taught You About Money by Money Behavior Lab Publishing. This is the foundational volume, the personal finance basics you should have received years ago in plain language, with zero judgment for not knowing something nobody ever bothered to explain. The book opens with something that most finance books skip: an acknowledgement. Not knowing about personal finance is not a sign of ignorance. It is a sign that nobody taught you. School was designed during the industrial age to produce workers who follow instructions, not financially independent people who make smart decisions with their money. The world changed. The curriculum didn't. The result is entire generations of hard-working, intelligent people who reach adulthood without a map for one of the most important territories of their lives. This book is that map. Let's walk through it. Chapter 1. What is money really? Before budgets, before investments, before any strategy, the book starts with something most people have never seriously considered: what money actually is. The answer might surprise you. Money is technology. Thousands of years ago, humans used barter. If you had chickens and needed shoes, you had to find a shoemaker who wanted chickens that specific day for that specific amount. Enormously inefficient. Money was invented to solve that problem. First it was shells and salt, then metal coins, then paper. Today, most money is just numbers on screens, electrical impulses moving through cables. It's a tool invented by human beings. And like any tool, it has no moral value of its own. It can build a hospital or fund destruction. What it does depends on the person holding it. There's a second way of seeing money that the book introduces, and once you understand it, it permanently changes how you spend. Money represents time. When you work, you exchange hours of your life for money. If you earn $500 a week working 40 hours, each hour of your life costs about $12.50. So when you spend $125 on something, you're not spending money in the abstract. You're spending 10 hours of your life. Is that thing worth 10 hours of your life? Maybe yes, maybe no. The point isn't to stop spending. It's to start spending consciously, knowing what you're actually trading. The chapter also covers something often overlooked: money and the brain. Neuroscience research shows that losing money activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Gaining money activates the same circuits as other pleasurable experiences. This is why financial decisions are rarely purely rational, and why understanding your emotional relationship with money matters as much as understanding the math. Chapter 2. Your money mindset changes everything. Before strategies, before spreadsheets, before any financial technique works. There's something more fundamental that needs examination: what you believe about money, because your beliefs are more powerful than any financial strategy you could ever learn. The book traces money beliefs to childhood. They weren't born with you. They formed early through what you watched and heard at home. If your parents fought about money, your brain connected money with conflict. If you heard, "money doesn't grow on trees," every time you asked for something, you learned that money is scarce and hard. If you saw someone wealthy and the adults around you commented negatively about them, you learned that having money carries something shameful. These associations became automatic, and automatic beliefs guide your decisions without you even noticing them. The book identifies the most common limiting beliefs that quietly stall financial progress. Money is the root of all evil. If you believe this, you'll unconsciously reject money. Spend it down before it corrupts you. Feel guilty when you have more than you need. Money is not good or evil. It's neutral. The same money can build a school or fund a war. Money in your hands, used with purpose, is a powerful positive force. I've never been good with numbers. The math of personal finance is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and percentages. Nothing beyond elementary school. What's really behind this belief, in most cases, is fear. Fear of looking at the real numbers. Math is the excuse. Fear is the obstacle. Earning more would solve all my problems. This one contains a grain of truth, which makes it dangerous. The research shows a pattern called lifestyle inflation. As people earn more, they spend more. Finances remain equally stressed even as the paycheck grows. The problem is usually not how much comes in. It's what happens to what comes in. The chapter introduces the distinction between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. Scarcity sees money as something always running out, to be protected and hoarded. Abundance doesn't mean believing money rains from the sky. It means believing you can generate more, that money can grow, that learning to manage it has real rewards. The good news, mindset is modifiable, not overnight, but with consistent conscious effort. Chapter 3. Income, Expenses, and Your Money Flow. This chapter gets practical. Your financial health is not determined by how much is in your account right now. It's determined by what the book calls your money flow, where money comes in, where it goes, and how fast it moves. Income falls into two categories. Active income is money you receive in direct exchange for your time and work. Your salary, your freelance fees, what you charge for a service. If you stop working, this income stops. Most people live entirely on active income, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it has one critical limitation. Your time is finite. Passive income is money that comes in without directly exchanging your time for it in that moment. Dividends from investments, rent from property, royalties from something you created. It usually requires significant upfront effort or capital, but over time, it can work for you while you do other things. The long-term goal of personal finance is not just to earn more. It's for a growing portion of your income to come from sources that don't depend on your hours. Expenses also break into categories. Fixed expenses are predictable and recurring. Rent, insurance, phone plan. Variable expenses change month to month. Food, transportation, entertainment. Then there are money leaks. What the book calls the silent category most people never account for. The coffee on the way to work, the subscription you forgot to cancel, the food delivery ordered out of convenience. Each one seems harmless. Added up over a month, they can be surprisingly large. The book tells the story of Carlos, an accountant who earns well but runs short every month. He tracks every expense for 30 days and discovers $180 on coffee, $90 on food delivery, and 4 subscriptions he barely uses, over $300 a month disappearing without his noticing. Cash flow is the formula that tells you the truth. Cash flow equals total income minus total expenses. Positive, you have surplus. You're getting ahead. Negative, more is going out than coming in. You're running a deficit. 0. You're not falling behind, but you're not building wealth either. Chapter 4. Assets and Liabilities. What makes you rich or poor? If there's one concept in personal finance that permanently changes how you see every financial decision, it's this: the difference between an asset and a liability. Robert Kiyosaki popularized it with a sentence that sounds simple but has enormous consequences. The rich buy assets. The poor and middle class buy liabilities thinking they are assets. The definitions are as clean as it gets. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Is your car an asset? Probably not. Insurance, fuel, maintenance, and it loses value from the moment you drive it off the lot. Unless it's generating income, it's a liability. Is your house an asset? It depends. If you live in it and pay a mortgage, it has maintenance costs and generates no income. In terms of cash flow, it's a liability, though it may be building long-term equity. If you rent it out and the rent exceeds your costs, it's an asset. Assets. Investments that generate dividends, rental properties that cash flow positively, a profitable business, royalties, index funds, and ETFs. Liabilities, consumer debt, credit card balances, a car you're financing, anything that requires ongoing payments without generating income. Net worth, a concept the book introduces here, is the simple formula that tells you where you actually stand. Net worth equals total assets minus total liabilities. This is the most honest measure of your financial health, and the book is clear. What matters more than what the number is today is whether it's improving month by month. Chapter 5. Compound Interest, the most powerful force in personal finance. Simple interest is straightforward. You earn a percentage of your original investment, the same amount every year, forever. If you invest $10,000 at 8%, you earn $800 per year, every year. After 30 years, $34,000 total. Compound interest works differently. The interest you earn gets added to your principal, and the next period you earn interest on the larger total. Interest earns interest, which earns more interest. Same $10,000, same 8%, same 30 years, but with compound interest, $100,627, nearly 3 times more. From the same starting point, same rate, same time. The book illustrates this with Sophia and Martin. Sophia invests $200 a month starting at 25 for just 10 years, then stops. Martin starts at 35 and invests $200 a month all the way to 65, 3 times longer and 3 times more money. At 8% annually, Sophia ends up with approximately $314,000 at age 65. Martin ends up with approximately $272,000. Sophia invested $24,000. Martin invested $72,000. Sophia wins, by a lot, because she started 10 years earlier. Now, here's the uncomfortable flip side. The same mechanism that grows your investments destroys you when it works against you through debt. Credit cards charge compound interest at 18% to 36% annually. A $1,000 balance that you carry without paying it off can grow to more than $9,000 in 10 years without borrowing a single additional cent. Just from compound interest. This is why eliminating high-interest debt is one of the best investments you can make. There is no investment that consistently returns 24%. Paying off a debt at that rate is the equivalent of earning that return guaranteed. The rule of 72 is a mental math shortcut for all of this. Divide 72 by the annual rate to find how long it takes to double. At 8%, 9 years. At 6%, 12 years. A credit card debt at 24% doubles in 3 years. Chapter 6. Banks, Accounts, and Inflation. Most people use banks every day without understanding how they actually work. The book demystifies this in a way that changes how you think about where you keep your money. Here's the business model of banking, stripped to its core. Banks borrow money at a low cost, lend it at a higher cost, and keep the difference as profit. When you deposit money in a bank, you are lending that money to the bank. They pay you a very low rate for it, often below 1% annually. Then they lend that same money to other people at much higher rates, mortgages at 6 to 8%, personal loans at 15 to 20%, credit cards at 20 to 36%. The key insight: Your money in the bank is not sitting in a vault waiting for you. It's working hard for the bank, not for you. Then comes inflation. The book explains it simply. Inflation is when prices rise across the economy over time. If inflation is 5% annually, something that cost $100 last year costs $105 today. And here's the direct implication. If your money isn't growing at least as fast as inflation, you are losing purchasing power every single year. If you keep $10,000 under a mattress and inflation is 4% annually, in 10 years that money can only buy what $6,700 would buy today. You didn't spend it. It didn't go anywhere. But it's worth less. This is one of the most important reasons to invest, not just save. Saving protects your money from impulse spending. Investing protects it from inflation. Chapter 7. Basic taxes. Every adult needs to understand. Taxes are the topic that most reliably triggers discomfort in people without financial training. They seem complicated and abstract, until not understanding them costs you real money. The book makes one concept especially clear: the tax bracket system. Most countries tax income in tiers, not as a flat rate. You don't pay the highest rate on everything you earn. You pay different rates on different portions of your income. Example from the book. First $20,000, taxed at 10%. $20,001 to $50,000, taxed at 20%. Above $50,000, taxed at 30%. If you earn $60,000, you pay 10% on the first $20,000, 20% on the next $30,000, and 30% only on the last $10,000. Your effective rate is a blend, always lower than the highest bracket. This matters because a lot of people fear earning more, thinking a raise will put them in a higher bracket and they'll somehow take home less. That's a myth. Under a bracket system, earning more is always better. Additional tax only applies to additional income. The chapter also covers a distinction most young people discover the hard way: the difference between gross salary and net salary. Gross is what's on your contract. Net is what actually lands in your account after taxes and deductions. In many countries, the difference can be 20% to 35% of your gross income. For any financial planning, always use your actual net income. The gross number is one you'll never fully see. Chapter 8. Financial Goals. Knowing where you want to go. Money without direction flows to the path of least resistance, immediate spending. Financial goals are what give money a destination. The book makes a distinction that sounds simple but changes everything. A dream is something you want. A goal is a dream with a date, a number, and a plan. I want to own my own home is a dream. I want to save $20,000 for a down payment in 4 years, setting aside $420 monthly, is a goal. The difference is not semantic. The goal tells you exactly what to do every month and lets you track whether you're on track. The book introduces the SMART framework for financial goals. Specific, not save more, but save $200 monthly. Measurable, a concrete number. $15,000 for the down payment. Achievable, ambitious but realistic given your income and expenses. Relevant, it must actually matter to you. Goals you don't care about get abandoned. Time-bound, a specific deadline. Without urgency, there's no action. When a goal meets all 5 criteria, the probability of reaching it increases significantly because your brain knows exactly what it needs to do and can measure whether it's happening. The book also addresses what to do when you have more goals than money. The priority order it recommends. First, emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Without this, any unexpected event destroys all your other goals. Second, eliminate high-interest debt. The return from paying off a 25% interest rate debt beats any investment. Third, medium-term goals that most affect your quality of life. Fourth, long-term investment. Chapter 9. Your Starting Point. Today's Financial Snapshot. The final chapter is the most important in practical terms. Everything learned so far, the concepts, the frameworks, the vocabulary, comes to life here when you apply it to your own situation. Many people avoid this step. Looking at the real numbers is scary, especially when you suspect they're worse than expected. But the book makes a powerful case for doing it anyway. Once you can see exactly where you are, you can map the path to where you want to be. The core exercise, calculating your net worth. List everything you own with its current value, bank balances, investments, the estimated value of your vehicle, any property. List everything you owe, credit card balances, loans, remaining mortgage, debts to family or friends. Subtract liabilities from assets. That's your net worth today. The book is clear. It doesn't matter what the number is. It doesn't matter if it's negative. Negative net worth is more common than most people realize, especially among young adults carrying student debt. What matters is whether it's improving month by month. The book's final guidance is beautifully simple. Calculate your net worth today. Set a reminder to calculate it again in 3 months. If it improved, you're on track. If it got worse, review your cash flow for that period. One number, every quarter. That's it. And the book closes with this. You cannot improve what you cannot measure, and you cannot measure what you refuse to look at. Conclusion. After 9 chapters, you have something most people never have. A financial foundation, a way to see money not as a source of anxiety or shame, but as a tool, one you now know how to begin using more intelligently. The concepts covered in this book build into each other. Understanding money leads to examining your mindset. Understanding your flow leads to seeing assets versus liabilities. Understanding compound interest leads to knowing why starting today matters more than starting perfectly. Understanding goals leads to calculating where you actually stand. This is Book 1 of 5. The series continues with Book 2, Where Does Your Money Go? Building a Real Budget and an Emergency Fund. Book 3, Goodbye Debt, Strategies for Eliminating Debt for Good. Book 4, Your Money Working for You, An Introduction to Investing. Book 5, Financial Freedom, Building a Long-Term Financial Life Plan. Final note for the listener. This summary introduced you to the core ideas, but the full book includes 42 hands-on exercises, one at the end of every chapter, with blanks to fill in using your real numbers. Those exercises are where the transformation happens. Reading about money changes nothing. Doing the exercises changes everything.